It is an absolute pleasure to come your way again with Captured by Women. I am Nansata Yakubu, a development consultant, and I am here with my co-host,
Elizabeth Olympio Emmanuel. I'm a restaurateur.
We are particularly delighted to have with us Matilda from TV3 News with us in the studio today for this program. In this episode of Captured by Women, we take a look at the mass failure of foreign-trained Ghanaian medical students. The results released by the Medical and Dental Council says that 157 students have failed exams that were organized for foreign-trained medical students last week in Accra. What does this mean for the health sector in Ghana? Could something be wrong with the training of foreign medical students or the institution in which they undertake training?
On Friday, 22nd March 2019, we all heard about the tragic accident that happened in two locations in Ghana, Kintampo Techiman and Cape Coast, Winneba Cape Coast. We lost close to 70 lives, including children. Is this due to driver indiscipline, inadequate infrastructure of our roads? What is the problem? We will discuss this in Bang 1.
The Right to Information Bill has been passed after almost 20 years of campaigning and lobbying, with over 100 amendments to the draft bill. But civil society organizations who have been on the front lines of the campaign remain unhappy over exclusion of key components of the proposed bill. Will these exclusions be fatal to the implementation of the law? Or should Ghana be content with half a loaf?
This program is coming to you from the Empower offices, 8th floor, the Octagon, Accra. The spin is up next when we return after the break. Back from the break. This is the spin. So ladies, we are accustomed to hearing news of mass failure in Ghana. The recent professional law exams, mass failure. Teacher professional examination, mass failure. BEC, WAEC exams, mass failure.
Oh dear.
Mass failure all over the place. What do you make of the recent mass failure of the Ghanaian trained doctors?
It's a place that you wouldn't imagine somebody would really fail an exam. Truthfully, it hadn't come out. So it was like something that was hitting you. And then there were questions that you kept asking yourself. What is happening? What do they learn there? And you think that these are people who have sophisticated equipment. They would have the best models in terms of teaching. So what has happened to our students on their way back home? Or did they not learn? Or is this something that is not almost the same as what we practice here? That is what just comes into mind. I don't know.
I think an independent investigation should be undertaken for the background of the students to start with. What were their high school grades? What courses did they take to be enrolled in School of Medicine in other foreign countries? What teaching was employed? Were they allowed to, did they face racism, discrimination? All these have to be taken into consideration. And if they are students, these are only foreign students, I believe. These are Ghanaian students who go outside to undertake this course of study. They're probably not being taught right. They can't have such a mass failure of such magnitude. It's
but
way
we are
too
hearing
high.
from the Medical and Dental Council that actually this is not the first time they've had such abysmal, pass rates, and that over the years it's been happening. In fact, they've just stated that it was only in November 2017 that they kind of had the kind of better rates where up to maybe 48 people passed, but which means that 48%, excuse me, passed. So which means that 50% is a standard failure. I mean, 50% of whatever number is taking these exams. We have 157 now out of 225. So that means about 70% of that. So that is quite abysmal. And the indications are that this has to do with schools in Eastern Europe and those who train in China. I mean, we can name names. We are not saying it. That's the information that is. The statistics show that people who study in China, Hungary, Ukraine, you know, and other places are those that fail, and the people who train in Cuba and Venezuela have a higher rate. And
Success
apparently,
rate,
they even organize extra classes for these students who return to be able to catch up, you know, on these. We've been able to talk to some of the students, and there are a whole batch of conspiracy theories flying around. Issues about registration fees being high, so maybe it's a technicality to let them re-register and raise money. There are issues about the training itself, where apparently they just train with dummies for anatomy, and people don't have the opportunity to work with real patients. Then others are saying the conditions there might be different. For instance, I don't think the malaria figures in Ukraine are anything to run about, if there are any there. Whereas when you come here, malaria is like the main. So maybe there are more questions that we need to be asking than just the fact that they are
also
failing
actually
exams.
raised the issues of language and the fact that they probably learnt in languages that they couldn't imbibe it. Yes.
When you travel any foreign country that speaks a different language,
for at least a year's training
is a language study of the language. So if they don't do that, then they are certainly set to fail. But what is the Medical and Dental Council, the MDC, doing about it? If you are recording failures constantly for these past years, what measures are you putting in place to remedy it? Maybe foreign students need to come in and do a year's study as their housemanship or some level of tutoring before they take the exam, because they cannot allow them to spend so much money. Parents, these are parents who are coming from, most of these students who go out abroad, they're all not from wealthy homes or middle-income homes.
Alexa, you know, there's the bit that is like, do we actually investigate the kind of schools that our children want to go to? So, for instance, if I'm not getting access to medical schools in Ghana and I get anywhere, I just want to go. No, it shouldn't be that.
Background checks.
And then again, you realize that in Ghana, it's just skewed to you have to have gone into the sciences to go into the medical field. But in other places, somebody who did arts could easily go and do pharmacy, medicine, whatever. So it means that you already have a lot of hurdles to cross. And so if you are unable to do that, it will be very difficult for you to catch up and then even stabilize, then go through the number of years that you have to go through the training. Obviously, when you come here, it will be easier for the person who has gone through all these to pass than yourself.
The argument remained that if you had basic training as an art student, let's say a general art student, and then you bridge the gap to become a medical student, you definitely will have problems with the basic sciences. For those of us who even did the little biology, we can still do photosynthesis and osmosis, as you know. Yeah, exactly. So if you did home economics and there was no photosynthesis, and you've now become a doctor, that means you have that gap.
But if you still did the arts and you have a passion for medicine, then the requirements are that you do an extra year or much longer study to get abreast with the basics before continuing to get to graduate.
But if you do that and you are not abreast of, and you come and you fail the exam, what do we do with you? That is the challenge we are facing now.
You know, it says that you have another opportunity to write. But then in writing that exam, what will be required of you? If you are still...
What are the remedial measures? Are they going to go back to be tutored?
And will as a patient, want to be treated by this foreign medical trained person, if I know?
Now, the question is, do you have confidence in people?
Should we be told that you trained in China
fortunately, we will go to our hospitals and we will not know which doctor is trained where, because they are all wearing a white coat.
Sometimes you get the accents.
We are depending on the administration.
Well, if you trained in Germany, you will know, because you will say good morning to you.
No, come on. 5 years in Germany shouldn't change
their accent. You never know. People do one day and their accents change, please. It happens. What we are saying is that this is a country where the patient-doctor ratio is, I mean, you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So we are not having enough doctors. The doctors that we are about to have are not passing. So what do we do about the gap? how do we then bring these doctors to be real doctors? How is that also going to happen?
Yes, so this is a responsibility of the Medical Council, the MDC. They are supposed to look at strategies to put in place to save these students, because these students have a passion for the profession. They want to be doctors. So they've gone 3, 5, 6 years to study medicine abroad. They must put in measures. If they need to tutor them back for a year, if you fail the exam, and not just take the money for registering for the exams and say you have a chance to write again. That is not acceptable.
But do we have to even wait for it to get there? I think that we should now begin to give out a list of universities out there that you could go.
Apply to.
Yes.
The list is there. There is a list.
So what is happening?
Probably
What
they go
happens
according
to
to
people who go where
affordability.
they will be admitted?
Okay.
I want my ward, my daughter, my son to become a medical student. I am finding some university in Guangdong. There goes my son or daughter to study.
And many of these universities come to Ghana and do exhibitions and presentations.
Exactly.
Is our accreditation board looking into these schools that come in to do that? We must have policing around as well and engage.
Because once you are looking out for a place to go, anything that is offered, you will take it.
Yes, you will.
So,
absolutely. Given the seriousness of the issue, we expect the Medical and Dental Council to come out with statements, pragmatic strategies, methods, what they are going to do to solve this problem. We need answers. Let's also talk about the serious accidents, the spate of tragic deaths on our streets when we come back from the break. This episode of Captured by Women is brought to you from Empire Office Suites, located in Octagon in Accra. Empire Office Suites, it's fully furnished, fitted workspaces, is a co-workspace, ready to use, and you can come here, take a space, and have your work done. Ghana is still in shock after the gory accidents of March 22nd, which occurred on the Techiman-Kintampo Highway and Ekumfi-Dunkwa, claiming the lives of 70 people. Statistics show that the police have given 411 people have died and 2,048 others injured only over the period of January and February of this year alone. How can any country be at peace with itself with such fatalities? On the show today, we have Engineer David Osapvo Adontin to discuss the issue of these fatalities. Engineer David, you're most welcome to Captured by Women.
Thank you.
What is causing the trend of these fatalities? Is it driver indiscipline? Is it improperly built roads? What is indeed the problem, and why have we not curbed this situation?
Right. Thank you very much. And I must say that I'm highly privileged to be hijacked within 3 beautiful ladies. And
You're welcome.
to talk about such an important issue that is confronting all of us in Ghana. Indeed, if you record close to 70 persons dying a particular day, then it's a disaster. It is something all of us must look at and see how we can address the problem. We will never be in peace if it happens this way. Because as I speak to you, there are about 70 homes that people are weeping. Some mothers have become widows. Some breadwinners are gone. Some children are going to lose going to school and even becoming the engineers and the doctors and the media men all of us sit here to be. And I think that I am not surprised that the entire country, everybody is speaking to this issue. And I believe that is the way it must go. Because we have left the gap for a very long time. And I'm happy that today I'm speaking to women. Gone were the days when women will come out and speak about road safety. Forgetting that if you look at our statistics, 70% of the people who die, the 2,000s that we record every year, are men. 30% the women. And if you look at Ghana, that we have 51% women and then 49 being men, then you know the number of widows we are creating. And you know what it takes when we lose all the men and then the women remain behind. The burden is on you. The children are left for you to take care of them. So I think that having this platform is an excellent opportunity for us to drum home these issues, for women to take up the responsibility and go out there and advocate. Because you speak to us as the men, and then we listen. I think that you have a responsibility, and I think by the time we leave here, you will know your role and what to tell us.
So as Director of Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Commission, what strategies have you put in place?
When it comes to road safety, it's a very complex issue. The complexity is such that you have a road, you have the vehicle, you have the human being that are interacting. This interaction, if there should be a deficiency in any of these components, then there will be a failure.
So what are the factors that you've identified?
That's right. Now, if you find a deficiency in the design of the road, the construction and maintenance, if you don't have the necessary facilities, like say the signage, the markings, the lighting and so on, then there's a deficiency. So the likelihood that somebody would fail when using the facility is there. Now, the vehicle, you always don't have a perfect vehicle. You have vehicles that are substandard, the seats within, the tires, the lights, and so on. So these are all deficiencies. Now, when you come to the individual, you and I, as we go and sit behind the steering wheel, are we competent? Have we gone through the proper training, knowledge, acquiring the license properly? If we are not, it means that we are not qualified. And so we will also be deficient. Now, if any of these should come together in the interaction and there's a failure, then the crash will occur. And I want to use this opportunity to say that it is the level of indiscipline that we see currently on the part of the human being. If you put the factors together, the road factor and the vehicle factor do not even form about 10%. It is the human factor that takes care of the 90%.
The road factor.
Yes. So what it means is that because like this crash that happened,
yes,
you saw a very perfect road. The lines,
did it have street lights?
Yes. There was no
street lights.
But definitely, you
because
can't have lights.
It was about 2 a.m.
Yes, you can't have lights.
I think if there were street lighting there and the oncoming bus, they wouldn't have collided.
Well, we have not finished or completed the investigation
I believe it was a head-on collision.
Yes, it was. But the little we are seeing pointing to driving at excessive speeding.
Which is true.
And then getting tired and sleeping. That is what we are getting. And that is on the part of the human being. Because why on earth would you, as a professional driver, as they call themselves, will sit behind a steering wheel and sleep?
But engineer, there are also other factors, you know. It's not just the sleeping part. The sleeping part might be because we are referring to maybe night driving.
Good.
Now, we've come out to say that we would have to put in some measures to curb night driving. Now, that in itself is a whole industry. The region I come from, we travel only in the night. Everybody going to Wa leaves Accra at 4 or 5. So you can get there in the morning, finish your business, and be back in Accra before your friends know you've been gone. Okay. We live far away. Yeah. So that's the point. So if that industry is going to be, we shouldn't do knee-jerk, you know, kind of policy making. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's an accident, all of a sudden, every truck, everybody driving in the night sees.
That's absurd.
What is the limitations on the road? The markings. Yeah. In the middle of that Kintampo, Tamal, that stretch, we are talking about a place that there's no way there can be street lights the whole stretch. But at the villages, every community you get to, there usually would be a couple of street lights there when you are going into the village or the town, and then when you are leaving. So it kind of lights up the road in a way. But some part of it is always very dense. You know, you get there and you can see you are in very, you know, forest and all that. You can't see markings on the road. Sometimes the white markings to guide you, some of them have to blink, they are not there, and things that we have that. Then you also have the kind of vehicles on the road, not just those that are not road working. You have these tricycles, the ones with the three tires on the highways, and nobody says anything. So those are some of the things. Who should we ask questions of? Why are those kind of this on the road? Yes,
that's perfect.
What is Road Safety Commission doing?
We have institutions that are mandated to do one thing or the other for us to have the safety we're talking about. Okay. We have the police that should do the enforcement because the laws are there. What we need is for the police to do vigorous enforcement. We at the National Road Safety Commission, unfortunately, what we do is education. Beyond education, we don't fix roads, we don't fix lights. It is another responsibility for the road agencies You call the Ghana Highway Authority, Department of Urban Roads and Federal Roads.
But would you make recommendations?
Yes, so the mandate that is given to the National Road Safety Commission now is for us to advise, you recommend, you liaise, you coordinate,
and
or
you
you
don't
collaborate.
monitor. You don't
Now,
monitor.
You monitor and you make the recommendation.
Okay.
Now, if you advise that for a particular stretch of road, there must be street lights or a traffic light for that matter, you have finished your job and then you go back and expect that it to be done. Now, if any institution is advised by the commission to do it and they fail to do, you can't do anything. I think that is the more reason why, under the interministerial committee report that went to the president, it's now decided to make us an authority.
Yes.
Now, our commission is now going to be called the National Road Safety Authority, which means that now if we have teeth, we can bite. If we identify something that is wrong, we will use the power given to us by government, which I believe any moment from now, Parliament is going to pass it. And then we can issue sanctions if you fail to do.
So which areas would you be biting, for instance?
The
Because
stakeholders.
Yes.
Because it means if the police are supposed to be policing and they are not doing their work, you will sanction the police.
The current
Yes,
teeth
exactly.
that they
Yes.
have, let's
Exactly.
go to the issue of the teeth.
Yes.
You currently have teeth.
We have teeth. but we
Road
can't
Safety
bite.
Act 2008.
Yes.
Everybody says that the penalties are laughable.
Exactly.
The penalties you have in that act. So if you already have some teeth and you've decided that you won't bite,
Do you know that?
how is the change in the name from
commission
commission
to
to
authority
authority
can change.
going to
let me show
let
you
you
the
be
difference.
able to? What's the difference?
Somebody woke up one day and said we are slashing the penalties by 90%, and it was there. So this time, a penalty unit is 12 Ghana cedis. So it means that those days, when you should pay 120 Ghana cedis, it's been slashed to 12 Ghana cedis. And this was the politician who did it, and there was no authority to fight back. Now we are saying that give us the authority. If we wake up tomorrow and we find a particular stretch of road that is supposed to have a line marking, a road sign, or for that matter, something that can help protect the life of an individual using it, and it's not there, that is where we come in. We will ensure that it comes. We'll give you 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month.
So do you
fix
go
it
around
there.
inspecting?
Yes, that should be our
and
job.
what about the public, general public? When we notice these deficiencies,
Yes.
where do we report it to?
And exactly, you come to us. At the moment, if you report to us
Physically?
yes,
Is there-
or
is
you
there
can
a
write.
medium?
Now we're using social media.
Or a hotline.
We'll
You
give
are you on Facebook?
Yes, we are.
What is your
We-
address on Facebook?
and when it happens, we haven't created that particular platform. When we
Social
create it-
media, please use social media
Yes.
because a lot of your
So
motorists
we're going to use
are
all this,
technology
yes.
savvy.
That is why we are now also asking the drivers to go to school. Every driver is going to go to school this time around. So the measures that we are bringing, we're going to involve everybody. Now, if we create that platform for you to come and tell us what you observe, because of course we can't be everywhere, but we expect everybody to play a role. If you find anything wrong with the road infrastructure, with the vehicle that is rickety, and it has roadworthy certificate running around, because when a vehicle is rickety, you can see. You bring to attention.
But
the,
you know,
the law
there's
says
also the bit about the human factor.
Yes.
Where you have owners of transport, but there's no monitoring. So, for instance, we wouldn't mention, or we would go ahead and mention it. You have something like state transports, and they have a tracking system.
Yes.
And so, the days that I used to go there, you would never move and make it 2.5 hours to a certain place if it's supposed to be 4, because there are rest stops.
Yeah.
So are we going to then work with some of these organizations who own the transportation the vehicles?
Yes.
So that at least there's a kind of monitoring, because that is what is happening now. There's that tree thing that says that
Okay, my dear, you see, and that is where the authority again comes in. People think that it is just a change of name because they say, authority, eventually we'll still stay at where we are. We're going to have a difference. The difference we promise you is that this time around, our eyes are going to be wide open and we have law to back us. Currently, the transport system is not regulated. We don't have anybody regulating a public transport system. It is a free-for-all. Anybody goes
So
to the...
you don't work with GPRT. You have no working relationship with the GPRT,
It is just a
for
cordial
instance.
relationship. We
But
hold
do they
meetings
listen
with-
at
they
least
don't.
when you advise?
They don't. They don't.
So what would, how, for instance, with an organization like GPRTU, how would the becoming an authority, the legal mandate that you would have, what would it mandate you to what kind
Very
of
good.
relationship can you
Now
develop with
we're
them?
going to register all of them. we're going to know who is operating and where they are operating and how they are operating. We're going to give them standards. For example, driving from here to Wa.
Yes.
We do not see why one driver
especially
should do that. Wa. I'm mentioning Wa because
yes.
of this. Because I do not see why one driver should drive all the way from here to Wa. No, there should be two of them. So it's a standard that we're going to make by law. Now, we do not also see why somebody, you go and buy a vehicle of $200,000, look around to see if your son or Wafasi or somewhere there, and then you give the key to go and run it. No, this time, we will prescribe the kind of vehicle or driver that vehicle should be driven.
But that already exists, because when you go to DVLA, every vehicle that reaches a certain weight or tonnage, there is a classification of driver's license that is qualified to
how do they get the license?
Operate that.
How do they get
it's
that?
A system.
It's a system.
It's a system. So the system needs to be fixed before you go out again.
So we're going to fix the system now.
Because for instance, you have driver indiscipline.
Yes.
And this is not only from trotro or public transport. You have Land Cruisers who you would be staying in your queue, and you have Land Cruisers beep 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 beep. Even on the oncoming lane. What is road safety doing about that?
So this is the type of indiscipline I'm talking about. I'm saying that the level of indiscipline in Ghana is very, very, very high. There are certain practices that the police, in their current situation, are unable to accommodate. You just talk about the motorcycle menace.
Yeah, is the motorbike transport, crazy. Is it a legal business in Ghana? Because we sometimes even see the police patronizing their services.
Motorbike is a mode of transport.
Okay.
You can buy a motorbike and use it, but privately, not commercial.
All right.
But we see them
so
operating.
Okada is
not by law.
But I think Okada has legal basis for operation.
No.
But you see, that's where there will be a problem.
They are vibrant.
If there's a demand for Okada services, and I tell you, in some areas in Accra, if you don't go on Okada, then you won't go.
Yes.
Let's just be practical.
I agree.
So
now, why don't we regularize it?
If you are saying that Okada is not legal, Okada services are in demand.
Yeah.
How will road safety work with Okada Association, for instance? Because there's no way if you make them illegal, it's going to work. They will still operate in a way.
And they are actually operating with the policemen even also patronizing.
Exactly.
The challenge we face currently is that in spite of the law, people are still running anyway. Honestly, we happened to go around the entire country and we saw in reality the demand. Because there are certain areas that are completely deprived. The Ayalolos, the buses we see here, the trotros, the taxis, the Ubers, and then the trucks and so on we see here. We have a lot of options in the cities.
Yes.
Go to the hinterlands, nothing. Somebody would want to go to hospital, would want to go to somewhere.
Exactly.
For economic reasons, they don't have any facility. What do you want such a person to do? So we are looking at the law again. Yesterday or 2 days ago, we had a public forum, and we're going to go around the country for people to bring their opinions. Should we keep the law as it is, as banned, or open up for people to operate? I think that it's become a national issue now. Yeah. We shouldn't tickle ourselves and be smiling as if it is not there. In reality, it is there.
Exactly.
Police are there. They have come out very clearly. That is overwhelming. They cannot enforce now because they don't have the powers, the capacity to do that.
So we are pretending to work.
So we are pretending. So I think that National Road Safety Commission, we say, don't let us pretend.
No, but I think that genuinely in some parts of in some parts of the capital and maybe urban cities, that is where sometimes the threat of the motorbike seems over. But in other parts, these are decent, normal accommodation. You know, in other parts of the country, that is what people use. That is transportation to take their kids to school, to go to work. I mean, and it's safe. They wear helmets. They stay in their lanes. So the roads are too narrow. The plan. So I think what you are saying now, as an authority, is there going to be an opportunity to have kind of, you know we like committees, so you will have to get tripartite, or how do they call those ones? To be in a kind of a consortium, because that like planning and things will come on board.
You see, one of the functions that government is giving to us as a commission, in addition to education and the rest of that, this time it is not just coordinating. We are talking about standards. If an institution has its own standards, for example, if you say between Accra to Kumasi, it's a national highway, and the national highway must be said that it must be dualized completely from the beginning to the end. It must be done.
Yes.
We wouldn't see why 62 years after independent Ghana, and we're still maintaining single carriageways all across. You will experience this, what do you call it? The head-on collisions. You experience. Now, we try to do some experiments. If you get to Nsawam, you see that we do a bypass. You get in Koko, we do a bypass, and so on. Come and see. It's reduced this kind of crashes drastically. I think that is what we should be heading to. Unfortunately, if you bring up an idea, then somebody says there's no money. When are we going to get money? I think this is the time.
I need to ask one critical question. Akratama motorway.
Yes.
We have a concrete made road. Why are we patching it up with asphalt? The two don't gel. They are two. You're an engineer. Please, please tell me why this is being allowed. We are having so many accidents on the motorway.
Let me just add that we also have people now living on either side of the road. There's now a church.
Yes.
Also, a church, a real church on the side of the road.
That is road safety. Why are you allowing all these kiosk
So we have lost
habitation?
What do we do to take back control? So
you are the commission. You are the authority to be incoming authority.
We have lost control of the motorway itself, and that is the truth. Because elsewhere.
So why are we paying tolls?
Why do you allow yourself to lose control in the first?
How do we regain control?
Yes, it's because somebody who has been given that mandate failed or refused to act.
So who is that somebody?
And that is the Ghana Highway Authority. That is the Department of Urban Roads. That is the Department of Federal Roads.
So how do we wake them up to their duties?
It's advocacy. Like we sit here.
Okay.
As we speak, somebody is listening to us. There is work to be done. If you are an institution and you don't wake up, you see, society is changing. Now look at Accra and Nsawam. We're almost getting closer. So if you sit down, things will come over you. You can't do anything about it.
You need to get the information out to the people on the ground, where there are people living in communities. We could go on and on about this. Yeah. Engineer David Osafo-Adontin.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show.
We wish you all the best with your authority.
I really enjoyed your conversation. I wish you well.
We have had on the show Engineer David Osafo-Adontin, Director of Planning and Programs at the National Road Safety Commission. There's a lot more to discuss on this, and we will take this discussion after the show. We'll be right back.
You're welcome back. Civil society, activists, and journalists ask for the right to information law, and we now have it. But are we happy with what we have? In the studio for us to discuss is Seth Abloso. He's the chairman of the Right to Information Coalition and a labor consultant. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Did we have to wait for 19 years?
We didn't have to wait this long. It's been through a lot of hesitation by governments. There are many persons in all the political divides who seem to fear that a right to information law will let the people know too much.
But what is there to fear? And what is there for us not to know?
That is what we can't find. There is no reason to fear a right to information law. It promotes transparency, openness in governance, ensures confidence in governance and in government. So it's in fact in the interest of governments to have citizenry who have access to information. And that is why it's a constitutional imperative. In fact, it's premised on Article 21(1)(f) of the Constitution. And it's
so when a citizen says, what is the Right to Information Act?
Yes.
How do you respond to that? What is it in simple language, so we are all on the same page?
It's a law that brings the guaranteed constitutional right into effect and provides procedures and processes for accessing information from public offices.
So why are we not happy?
No, we must.
Why are some people saying there's still something we have to do? There are about 6
out?
clauses, or something on transition, something on some may and why and s. What is it that we need to do now that it's here?
We've decided to go with what we have, and we expect that as we go along, we'll be tracking the effectiveness of the acts and whether it in fact satisfies the constitutional imperative. But we had a few problems, one of which is with clause 13, which exempts access to information that is available in the process of decision making by government and public institutions. And in that instance, for instance, reports of tender committees will not be accessible to the public. And we think that it's important to see all this and draw attention to any shortfalls, so we don't have a situation where a president tells us another day that he's been misled. Because
Okay,
officialdom...
that is understood. So
yes.
there's this critical issue we need to have a practical implementation of this act,
Yeah.
so that it is not another one, on the shelves.
Yes.
We are hearing that all public institutions would have to have kind of an information desk. So they have to train people to give this kind of information. And that the act is now going to be Ministry of Information instead of the Attorney General. That was the last, I think the last amendment that was made, right?
Yes,
so it's now going, the locus will be Ministry of Information.
Ministerial responsibility.
Ministerial responsibility is information,
yes.
not Attorney General, as people were thinking of. Okay,
yes.
Now, in a lot of these public institutions, we already have desks or departments or offices that are already giving information.
Yes.
Are we saying that those people or these departments are not fit for purpose and we have to now bring new people on board? Isn't that going to delay implementation?
I agree with you. We don't need to bring new people to call them information officers to deal with the right information, because almost all public institutions have officers that deal with the public, and it's information sharing. So it's in fact the need to emphasize the obligation of public offices and public officers to share information and to recognize that every information they have is available in trust for the people of Ghana, and in fact even for foreigners, because the information even a foreigner in this country can access information in a public institution.
So there's also supposed to be the commission, establishment of a commission that is supposed to lay the grounds.
Yes.
What are some of the things that have to be done? Because we are looking at it taking effect immediately a year from the day it was passed, which is next year, especially when you're going to have to wait for the fiscal year because of money.
That's right.
Okay.
The Information Commission, the Right to Information Commission, is that which will deal with settle conflicts between that arise in the process of seeking to access information. So if any institution denies you access to information within the required period of time or unduly delays response to your request, then you can appeal to the Information Commission to address that challenge.
But that's where there's also a problem, because there's been a couple of recommendations asking that you shorten the number of days that you have to wait to get a response from any institution that you ask for information from. Yeah. Has this been addressed, and is this to your satisfaction?
It's been addressed. That has been addressed, and we expect that it will not unduly delay access to information. In fact, not only time, but also cost. There will be no cost to any information you access. The only obligation on the one seeking to access information is the cost of producing the information you're asking for. So if material has to be photocopied, you pay for the cost of photocopying, and not for the cost of searching for the information.
Okay. So, but you mentioned that you are going to have to take the law that you have now and run with it as it is.
Yes.
What are you unhappy with? Because you would have to go for amendments.
Yes, we're waiting for to see the legislative instrument that goes with the law and see if it can address some of the concerns we raised. Because you notice that the Right Honorable Speaker Okwe sought to arrest further processes on the bill, so we can address, Parliament will have time to address these concerns of ours.
Okay, I have a question. So this whole, we have a Right to Information Act now.
Yeah.
Over the years,
when the president assents,
when the assent, I mean, it's as good as, because it's something that we know the president is passionate about, he's ready to do it. So the accent, we know that it won't take another 19 years, we know. So there's the challenge of, we have had information on corruption issues especially, that people lay down their lives to get this information, even without a Right to Information Act. They got the information. Nothing happened. So are we saying that in this dispensation, with a Right to Information Act, if you have a certain kind of information, either through investigative journalism or whistleblowing, there are some powers within this act that is going to mandate some authority to be able to lead you through a process or what? What is it? If we have the information, then what?
The powers is to make the information readily and easily accessible, such that you don't have to go to courts like others have done to get an institution directed to make information available to you. As we said, a public institution, GCB Bank, is dismissing workers en masse. Workers it has taken on following the purchase and assumption exercise, principally from UT and Capital Bank. It's dismissing. Now we have close to 200 persons who have been dismissed. At the same time, the institution is processing persons for recruitment. There's been no advertisement in any public newspaper about vacancies in GCB Bank. And it has given no reason for the terminations that it's doing. And officials in GCB Bank are running away from explaining to the affected workers what the situation is. Because if your appointment is terminated without reason, and you are seeking employment elsewhere, and you are being asked why you left your last organization, what do you say? I don't know why I left. No, it's not satisfactory.
Exactly.
And ILO Convention 158 makes it obligatory that when appointments are being terminated, people are giving reason for the terminations. So why is GCB Bank doing this? It's what they are doing with approval of the board of directors. What is the rationale for that? And remember, in this whole process in the banking sector, the finance minister had said that government had made 8 billion Ghana cedis available to protect customers' deposits and jobs. What are the jobs that are being
so these are some of the reasons why you need a right to information.
These are some of the reasons why a right to information law will facilitate access to.
Okay,
yes.
So we also have the possibility of hiding under the Ghana State Secrets Act, 1962, and it's an old one.
Yes, yes.
And you know, there's that fear that you ask questions and you'll be told that it's supposed to be in the national interest for the security of the state. Is there something that is going to help us? Because as we sit here, there are a lot of institutions whose budget we don't know. And whose expenditure we do not know. Okay. And when you ask, you're told it's because of national security. But then that is where we also hear quite a lot. And you need to know. So there will be that misconception taken off.
The law provides sufficiently areas of exemption so that in matters of security,
which will not be abused.
Or misinterpreted
or misused.
Yes, which all put together.
Yeah.
But for all these persons who spend, they are audited. Mind you, they are audited. And that is why the Auditor General needs to be strengthened and not coerced in the performance of his functions. To ensure that, of his or her functions. And so that in situations where information that is not brought in the public domain shows that there's been gross abuses or corruption in these instances, such persons don't hide behind the cover of exempt information.
Yeah, so you can ask for the information for audited accounts and be able to see the
or
spending,
recruitments or dismissals or whatever,
like
because it's not just money.
That's right.
Okay, so on that note, we have to say a very big thank you to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy the
And we'll be looking forward to your success and a good process.
Our collective success. Thank you. We've come all the way with you in the media. You've been supportive, you've been active in the campaign, and we hope that we'll make Ghana a better place to live in, expand the frontiers of democracy, and let duty bearers recognize that they have an obligation to the people.
I believe that will be crucial for at least the next 1 year.
It should be.
As we establish the Commission. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And so,
thank you for having me.
We have been speaking with Seth Ablozo. He's the chairman for the Right to Information Law Coalition. We'll be right back.
This episode of Captured by Women is coming to you from the Empower Suites, 8th floor Octagon, Accra. Empower Suite is a one-stop business solutions for all your office equipment, space, and meeting rooms. You can also do pay as you go by the hour. Please book to make sure there's availability. So ladies, what has been the highlight for you in today's discussion?
Okay, so beginning with the national road safety and the issues related to education and sensitizing the people, I think they would have a Herculean task, because if you are on the highways, you see people crossing the road, and especially on the N1, we've done stories, we've done documentaries, there's been measures there, and yet you see people crossing, even with children, pregnant women crossing the road. And all this education is still not going down. Maybe they will have to relook the strategy again.
I'm quite excited. Engineer David Adontin mentioned that name and shame is an option for catching, especially the Land Cruisers who go wee and cross all of us and break the laws. They are the first violators, and they should show better example. People who should know better, endangering us on the streets. This must stop. So they will set up the social media pages, we will advocate for it, and all of us who take pictures. I am number one. I take pictures of everyone who's crossing jumping the lights, crossing the queue. I won't let you in, period. So I'll take a picture and put it on the National Road Safety Commission's page. And that is something we should advocate for. You out there listening to us, do the same. Let's advocate for sanity on our streets.
Well, I would say that we need good medical personnel. We currently are experiencing a crisis. If years upon years we are having people fail medical exams, that is a sign of worry. We all heard people died. We need people to treat these people who are still ill, or they could have been saved if doctors were there on time. So we really need to have a good medical school, look at what is happening, and let's see what the Medical and Dental Council can do about what has happened. I think that we need to get this right on track to be able to to move forward and make progress.
We as in the public should hold them to task as well. The Medical Dental Council cannot just come out and say, oh, you failed, write your exam again. No, what strategy are you coming out to help the students who are failing because they have a passion for the job? You wouldn't go study medicine if you don't have a passion for medicine.
Exactly.
So we have prospects, and we need doctors. What is the patient ratio? Is it 1 to 20,000? It is very bad.
Let's not go there. We will get ill. Well, viewers, this is the end of another episode of Captured by Women. Please make a date with us, same time, same place on Captured by Women.